I'm Dylan Rydberg, and I'm here with Will Stevenson and Anthony Silvani, and this is Beyond the Sidelines. Starting this week's episode, March Madness is underway with the Sweet 16 starting Saturday.
This has been a very crazy March Madness, to say the least. After, I think it was day one, there was 15 perfect brackets left or something crazy like that. So many upsets. I didn't make a bracket because, well...
You forgot.
I forgot March Madness was happening until the news broke that there was 15 perfect brackets left. So, and overall, I just don't care about college basketball at all. So.
No, I'm very excited. This has been fun to watch. There's been a lot of upsets, more than usual. Obviously, the standout being Oral Roberts beating Ohio State and then going on to beat Florida, that they're in the Sweet 16. It's unprecedented. Everyone predicted Ohio State to win. That's why the brackets were ruined. There were some people that picked Oral Roberts, but not many. I'm excited to see what it brings. I think Gonzaga is still the main favorite. They've been blowing teams away. I just think they're going to continue that to the final.
I think, okay, I don't not care about college basketball, but it's really hard to watch college basketball without fans, because that's a big portion of the college basketball is the fans in the stands and the actual passion that they have for it. Because NBA games with fans, sure they're there, but they're not as passionate as college fans. Same for college football. They had fans and the games were a lot more interesting than some of the NFL games without fans.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the Oral Roberts over Ohio State one was the biggest upset, although with fans, I mean, imagine that place going crazy with the Oral Roberts.
With fans, Ohio State would have won. But then at the same time, March Madness is played at neutral locations when there is fans. So.
I still think the biggest upset was Ohio beating beating Virginia, who was the defending champions, and they went out round one, and it was kind of shocking to them. And then Ohio ended up losing to Creighton, who I think is a very good basketball team. I just really like seeing what's going on with all the teams. I think another strong team is Baylor. They're putting up really good numbers. I think they could potentially challenge Gonzaga.
A team that I think is underrated from past years and watching them this year, Loyola Chicago.
Oh, yeah.
That team is very, very...
Oh, yeah. Sister Jean.
Sister Jean carries that team. They were so good for so long, but they didn't get the national recognition. Because if you're a small school like that, you have to be good for a long time before you can make it into the Sweet 16, because it has to be a continued success.
You gotta remember, they made the Sweet 16 a couple years ago when they knocked off Virginia.
Yeah, what I'm saying is that this team, before they started getting into the tournament, was really good for a long time. But now people are finally starting to realize how good of a team they actually are. So I really like that team. I
mean, I think it's crazy to think that one of Loyola Chicago, Oregon State, Syracuse, and Houston is going to be in the Final Four. That's how crazy this year has been in March Madness.
Crazy.
You don't think Loyola's making it?
I think they could make it.
I think they will. I got my money on them.
It'd be fun to see them go up against.
My bracket's already busted, so I have nothing to lose.
Yeah.
I had West Virginia in the finals.
That's tough.
I didn't know Syracuse was that good. I'm kind of disappointed in myself.
I had Syracuse.
You saw that Kansas game? Who'd they lose against?
USC. That was crazy.
They got blown out. That was embarrassing. Extremely embarrassing.
Oh, can we talk about Texas winning the Big 12, then knocked out first round at Abilene Christian?
We need to get Reed. Wasn't he a Texas fan? Oh my God. We can mess with him so hard. Moving on to football, the Giants sign wide receiver Kenny Golladay.
I loved the signing. Daniel Jones needed a wide receiver one, and I think Sterling Shepard wasn't that. Golden Tate wasn't that. And now Kenny Golladay, I think he was one of the best wide receivers, top two for sure. I think he's now finally that guy to take Daniel Jones to the next level.
I like the signing, but then at the same time, I don't like the signing, because I think that Daniel Jones has no excuse. The Giants won't win that division. I like the signing for the Giants. I hate it for Kenny Golladay. If he would have just taken a little bit less money to go play for a contender, he'd be the one or two on a really good team. He's now secured himself as the number one on that atrocious Giants team. But I think that the Giants are going to take a leap with Golladay. However, I don't think that they're going to make the playoffs.
Well, you got to remember last season, his Daniel Jones wide receivers were Sterling Shepard and Golden Tate. They weren't good enough. His tight end, Evan Ingram, is not good enough. Now they got Kyle Rudolph, who I think is a very, very good tight end. I just think that this team is finally ready to take that leap and challenge for that NFC East.
There are two things wrong with what you just said. One, Evan Ingram was a Pro Bowler last year.
Somehow.
And 2, they're probably not going to sign Kyle Rudolph because he has to get foot surgery. So Daniel Jones has very little excuses. The only excuse you can make for Daniel Jones is that he didn't have Saquon for the majority of the year. That's really the only excuse you can make for him.
Yeah, that's true. I'm just saying I think it's one of the best signings in free agency to finally get Jones that number 1 receiver.
I think it's a good signing for the Giants, as I said, getting a number 1 receiver, but it's a bad signing for Galladay.
I agree with that. I agree with Will. It was definitely a bad signing for Galladay. I don't understand why he would want to go there. Who would want to go to the Giants? Be honest. Nobody wants to go to the Giants.
The only reason to go to New York is for the big market, but except all the teams in New York
are terrible.
Exactly. Except the Nets. But
we live in a society.
Yeah.
Patriots go all out during free agency.
This is an unexpected move, to say the least, after having Tom Brady, arguably the greatest quarterback of all time, for 20 years and not spending really any money in free agency. And then you say, oh, we have Cam Newton now, and then going and spending $240 million in contracts. Makes no sense at all.
Yeah, well, I mean, after last year, like you said, they've made the playoffs 20 years in a row, and then last year they missed it. They wanted to get back, and they know Cam Newton really didn't have any reliable weapons last year, and they go out and get Nelson Aguilar, Hunter Henry, and Jonnu Smith, are really good tight ends. I think this team's finally ready to go back to contending. Unless Cam Newton is still last year's Cam Newton, where he threw like 7 touchdowns and like 10 interceptions.
I think you're forgetting about a very important signing for the Patriots when they signed Kendrick Bourne. He's a very underrated route runner in the NFL, and I think that on the 49ers, he was the number 3 guy on the 49ers. I don't think that. I know that. But I think that on the 49ers, if he was given more of an opportunity, that the 49ers would have gotten more wins just because I really like Kendrick Bourne. I also think that the Patriots, they're making moves by seeing what works in the past, because Cam Newton, when he had Greg Olsen, a healthy Greg Olsen, Greg Olsen had 1,000 yards. I think Greg Olsen was his leading receiver, his MVP year. And then the last time that Josh McDaniels had 2 tight ends in a good system, that team, he averaged 35 points a game. It's in 2012 when he had Gronk and Aaron Hernandez. So. Yeah,
but I think my favorite move is Matthew Judon. He's a stud on the outside linebacker. He can get to the quarterback whenever he pass rushing. He can drop in coverage if they need him to. I think that was a really, really good signing for them to help that defense, who last year wasn't up to the standards of the year before when they were locked down, one of the best in the NFL. I think they're going to get back to that this year.
Yeah, it does pain me to say this, but I do think that Jalen Mills was a great signing for the Patriots. I mean, I loved him in Philadelphia. He dyed his hair green. He was the Green Goblin, and now he's going to Boston.
He's going to dye it blue.
I hope he doesn't.
Hornets rookie LaMelo Ball expected to miss the rest of the season.
I think that he's the reason that he's not the only reason, but he's one of the biggest reasons that they're probably were or maybe still will make the playoffs in the Eastern Conference. I think that if he doesn't get injured, he's running away with Rookie of the Year, but I think that now there's a chance that someone else might have a breakout performance over the second half of the season. Maybe Halliburton makes a push for it again, Emmanuel Quickly makes a push for it, or if James Wiseman can come back healthy. But then at the same time, I think James Wiseman's missed too much time. So I think that it's good to give other people the opportunity to be in Rookie of the Year conversation, and it's bad for the Hornets.
No, yeah, I really liked what LaMelo was doing this season. He was putting up good numbers even when he was on the bench, he was putting up really good numbers. And then they finally put him into the starting role, and I think he took over. He's the star of that team. He makes everyone around him better. And going down with injury could be bad for the Hornets for the rest of the season, because I don't think that they're putting up the same numbers without him. I mean, you lose 30 points a game without him. So
try 20, but keep going. It's 20. Rookies don't average 30 points. MVPs average 30 points.
They lose 20 points a game, whatever. I just don't know if this team is able to challenge for the rest of the season.
I think that this team was LaMelo made everyone around him better, so the team's been playing really well. And LaMelo, the only real weakness to his game was defense. So his defense wasn't great. His three-point shooting surprised me. He's been shooting amazing compared to what I thought he was going to do. And his playmaking is just phenomenal. So I think that the Hornets might fall out of the playoffs because of the loss of LaMelo, but I could still see them making it, him coming back for the playoffs.
Yeah, that's going to be the huge thing. If they do make the playoffs, they're going to need him back. And if he's not back, I could easily see them being a one and done.
Well, yeah, they'd have to play like the 76ers or the Nets. They're going to be a one and done regardless, but they can not get 4-0'd if they have LaMelo.
Okay.
Moving on to arguments. Who won free agency? I'm going to go with Anthony.
I mean, there's obviously a lot of teams that had a lot of good free agency. I think the Chargers really had a really good one. I think they got a star center to protect their quarterback. They got another offensive lineman in Matt Freeland. I think he's really good. I just think they got Jared Cook, who I think isn't as good as Hunter Henry, but I think he could be reliable in the red zone. I just think that this team is finally now ready to contend in the AFC West. The only thing I didn't like is that they lost Melvin Ingram. They lost some of their corners. I think that's some of their biggest needs now.
Yeah, and Hunter Henry. But
yeah,
I think before I start my argument, I think that you severely undervalue Jared Cook. But the team that I think won free agency as far as filling holes that needed to be filling was the Broncos. I mean, they went out and Kyle Fuller was a free agent for less than an hour before they picked him up. They re-signed Justin Simmons to an extension, and I just think that this team improved it and on the defensive side of the ball, and they were very close to being ready on the offensive side of the ball. They just needed Cortland Sutton. Drew Lock needed a number one receiver to throw to that wasn't a rookie. So I think that the Broncos won it just because they filled a bunch of holes. They improved on defense by filling holes.
Yeah, I think now, with the Broncos inserting, they need Drew Lock to make that step. I mean, remember his last 5 games was rookie year. He'd mainly threw the ball to Cortland Sutton. He would go up and get it. He loses Cortland Sutton week 2 for the rest of the season, and he has to rely on Jerry Jeudy, who's a very good receiver, but a rookie as number 1 almost never works. And I think the AFC West is starting to pretend if we could see 3 AFC West teams make the playoffs this year.
Potentially.
I think the Chiefs will still going to win that division. I think the Chargers are probably more than likely going to make it. It's the Raiders. They've always been good. They've been mediocre the last 2 years, going 8-8 and 7-9.
They're good until like the middle of the season, and then
they start off hot and then they trail. I think Denver just needs to figure out their quarterback play, and we could potentially see 3 AFC West teams in the playoffs. Not this season, next season.
Yeah, and they could have maybe done something on the offensive side of the ball, but I think that just being able to do a complete overhaul of your secondary and get Ronald Darby, who was a pretty good number 1 in Washington last year, a very good number 2 on the Eagles the year they won the Super Bowl, and then Kendall Fuller. Kendall Fuller
plays for Washington.
Yeah, and then Kyle Fuller, who was an All-Pro 2 years ago under now head coach Vic Fangio. I think that the Broncos did exactly what they needed to do, and it made the team better.
One signing you forget, they brought back Kareem Jackson yesterday, and they keep together that safety duo of Simmons and Jackson, who have been really good the last 2 years, one of the best in the NFL.
Yeah, so basically the Broncos won.
Their defense is set. They just need to figure out their quarterback situation.
Okay. The Broncos might have won free agency, but they're definitely not going to win any games this season. How about the Panthers? What do you think they're going to do with the 8th overall pick? I'll go with Will.
I think that they're going to either trade up to take a quarterback, but I think that they should stay with Teddy Bridgewater for another year. I mean, he was given the O-line wasn't there, and he didn't have his number 1 target in Christian McCaffrey out of the backfield. That offense was not set up to be built around him. So I think that they should roll with Teddy Bridgewater next year and take either the best receiver available, which I think is either going to be Devontae Smith or Jalen Waddle at 8, or they should take Micah Parsons to hold down that defense.
I think they should go quarterback. I don't think Teddy Bridgewater is the quarterback for them, and if one of those 4 falls down to them, we know Trevor Lawrence won't, but Justin Fields and Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, they're the ones that they need to go and get. I think one of those quarterbacks will definitely take this offense with McCaffrey in there, with Robbie Anderson, who's really good, DJ Moore. I think this team just needs a quarterback. Their defense, I get where you can see coming. I get where you're coming from with Micah Parsons, but I just think that the defense is already ready. Matt Rule's a really good defensive coach. I just think the quarterback, again, much like most teams in the top 10, need help.
I don't think that Teddy Bridgewater is the problem there. I think the offense wasn't built for him, but now that they've had a year, he's had the ability to adapt to the offense, and the offensive coordinators had the time to develop the offense around him. And I think that Micah Parsons is a good enough linebacker to try to fill, not be able to fill, but play a Luke Kuechly type of role in that offense, as he can get all over the field, make tackles, get picks, do everything. And I think that Micah Parsons would be a better help to the team than the 3rd or 4th best quarterback on the board.
Well, I just think that Trey Lance fits that system perfectly. I mean, he is a very, very good quarterback. He's very underrated. He has a very good arm. He can run through defenders. So I think him and Robbie Anderson will be a very good matchup together. So I just think that they should try and get Trey Lance.
I disagree. I think that they gave Teddy the contract last year, and they should stick it out through it with him. And if they do take him, he's not going to get he shouldn't get playing time if they do take him. I mean, he's a project. He's the biggest project and the biggest what if in the draft, in my personal opinion. He has the raw ability, but I don't think he'll be able to take it over to the next level. So that's why I think they should go with Parsons, who's a surefire pick.
You know what? I don't say this often, but I'm going to have to agree with Will here. I think he has some pretty solid points, and Bridgewater might actually do something this season for if they have their offense built back. Moving on to somebody who I thought was a defensive end up until like 20 minutes ago. Should the Pacers trade Miles Turner? Anthony.
No, I don't think they should. I think he's a very good defensive player for them, and the Pacers need him. I think you said it a couple times. I think he's a contender for Defensive Player of the Year, and I get that he might not be in that system, but I think he just fits perfectly with them.
I mean, I think that him and Sabonis they play the exact same role, except Turner can play some defense. Sabonis can't really play defense. So I think that the Pacers should move on from him. They should go get a big who's not very much of a stretch big, like Andre Drummond or a Jared Allen type. Like not those exact players, but someone who's really good on the defensive side, but doesn't really have that extra floor spacing so that they can get more open in the paint, if that makes sense. And I think that if they should move Turner to a team like potentially the Heat, or maybe potentially send him to Milwaukee to be the center off the bench for that team behind Robin Lopez.
Yeah, I mean, I think Sabonis just doesn't play very good defense, but I think over time, those two will end up working together fine. The Pacers need to keep Miles Turner and Sabonis.
But over time, we've seen them together for 3-4 years now, and it's been somewhat effective, but this year Sabonis was an all-star, Miles Turner is going off on defense, but they don't play very well when they're on the same court together. And I think that the best situation for Miles Turner would be going to the Knicks. I think that if they could keep Emmanuel Quickly, R.J. Barrett, Julius Randle, I think that that'd be a very scary team, and I think they could potentially make it out of the first round of the playoffs if they made a move for Miles Turner, because he does have that three-point ability, and the Knicks need some defense. So I think that the Pacers should trade him just to make it so that Sabonis can be more of a focal point in the offense, because Turner does like to shoot threes.
Moving on to the last argument, will the Patriots take a quarterback in the draft, or will they roll with Cam Newton? Will.
I think that they're going to roll with Cam Newton. Most, if not all, of their offseason moves have been to set up a team around Cam. They went out and they got the two top tight ends in the free agency class. They went out and got two really good receivers. They got him the deep threat. They got him the tight ends. They bolstered the defense. I think that they're setting up for a run with Cam. They're setting it up to his play style. And I just couldn't see a quarterback that would make more sense over Cam Newton.
I can see where you're coming from, why they should stick with Cam. But I just don't trust Cam Newton in his form right now. He had a horrible season last year. I get that he wasn't set up to play in the Patriot system, and now he is. But, I mean, you could keep him there. You draft a quarterback as a contingency plan, because if he fails, you need a backup quarterback. Right now, Jarrett Stidham's the backup in New England. I don't think he's very good. And if Cam Newton doesn't pan out, you have to wait next year, where the quarterback draft class is so much worse than this year's.
Well, yeah, this is a historically good quarterback class. But I think that if you're going to take a quarterback, you don't do it in the first round. I think that you should wait until either the third or fourth and take Sam Ehlinger out of Texas to be the backup quarterback for Cam Newton. Also, I think that Cam Newton was playing catch-up the entire season. He got signed 6 weeks before the season and then had to learn the most complicated system in NFL history, and started out okay, but then he didn't know the system, so he had to keep playing catch-up on the most complicated system in the NFL. So I think that they're going to give Cam one more year. I think that they did only sign him with a one-year deal, so they're rocking him with him this year, and if they don't give him the extension next year, they'll take a quarterback and then next year.
I just think that they should take one this year as a contingency plan. I could see Sam Ehlinger going there.
When do you think they should take a quarterback?
Not first round. Unless you're going to trade up for Justin Fields, I don't think they'll take one first round. I think third or fourth.
What quarterback do you think they should take?
I think one that fit there is Kellen Mond, Sam Ehlinger. I think they're really good. I think with Bill Belichick could develop him.
I think Kellen Mond is terrible. I think Sam Ehlinger is the better pick of those two. But I do think they're going to stay with Cam. I think that their tight ends are both going to have 750-plus yards, and that they're going to have a really good running game.
We'll see.
That team's making the playoffs.
Moving on to something that's even more argumentable than the argument section, the game picks. First one is going to be the Celtics versus the Bucks. Will?
I'm going to have to go with the Bucks in this one. The Celtics should be the best team in the West right now. They have Jaylen Brown, they have Kemba Walker, they have Jason Tatum, they have Tristan Thompson. They have a very well-rounded built team. However, they're just not able to put it together right now for some weird reason, and it's really, really irritating, actually, to watch a team that should be so good be so not good and average at best. With 2 All-Stars, they're 8th in the East. So,
Wow, they're that low?
yeah, it's pretty bad. So I'm going to have to go with the Bucks here.
Yeah, I'm going to say the Bucks say they're riding a 9-game win streak. I'm pretty sure the Celtics, I think turnovers have been a huge part of the reason they're in 8th. I think the Celtics just aren't putting it together right now, so give me the Bucks.
And Giannis moved himself back into the MVP conversation for the 3rd year in a row. So if he wins 3 MVPs in a row, I'm going to be very upset.
I'm not sure if I'm actually able to pick games, but I'm going to say the Bucks. Next game, we're going to have the Nets versus the Jazz. I'm also going to start with you again, Will.
I think that it's going to be the Nets. The Jazz, they were on a really, really hot streak, but they've lost a lot of games as of late. I mean, they're still 3 games ahead in the West. That shows how good that they were on that run that they went on. But I just think that the Nets right now, yes, they don't have KD or Kyrie. They might not even have Harden. But if they, okay, this is a big if. If they don't have Harden, it's going to be the Jazz. But if they do have Harden, it's going to be the Nets. Harden had 17 assists last night. James Harden has been able to adapt into this system and become more of a ball-dominant scorer who actually passes the ball to his teammates because he has good teammates now, as opposed to when he was in Houston. He has teammates that can hit a 3, unlike Russell Westbrook. So, yeah, I have the Nets winning this one.
It's going to be a very close game. I'm going to give it to the Jazz. I think they've gone on a streak that's too far, and I think they're finally ready to start winning again. I still think that they're one of the better teams in the NBA. Yeah, it's obviously the best team in the West. I just think that they're finally going to get back on track for this one. I think it'll be a very close game that could go to overtime, though.
I don't think they're the best team in the West. I think that they happen to be first, but they're not the best team. That's a hot topic. But it's going to be the Jazz.
Fun fact, James Harden actually is questionable for the game.
That's why I'm saying if. Because if he plays...
yeah, who knows if that's going to happen. But just for funds, I'm going to take the Jazz because I think they can beat the Nets. The next game is going to be the Trailblazers versus the Heat. I'll start with you, Anthony.
I mean, it's going to be a very close game. I mean, Miami's turned it on the last couple of weeks. They're up to 4th in the East, if I'm not mistaken. Portland's really good. Damian Lillard has had a career year. I think it'll be a very close game, but I think Portland and Damian Lillard are going to pull it out.
Yeah, I think that the fire that the Heat needed to become hot again was for one of their players to become one of the most racist people in the NBA. But I think that Damian Lillard and the Trailblazers are going to win this game because Damian Lillard should be in the MVP conversation. He scored 50 points on like 20 shots last night.
Yeah,
it was insane.
He's insane.
I'm going to say the Heat. I got the Heat in this one, for sure. Also, the fire pun was quite comical. That was pretty good. All right, next game is going to be the 76ers versus the Lakers. I'm going to start with this one. I'm just going to say the Lakers. So, Will.
Good try.
You got
it's going to be the 76ers.
I got the Lakers.
They don't have LeBron James.
Uh-huh.
They don't have Anthony Davis.
Uh-huh.
Let's see. Who else do they not have? I'm pretty sure that they're rocking without Dennis Schroeder at the moment.
Lakers and by 20.
So that means that Kyle Kuzma is your number 1 scoring option. Montrezl.
Y'all not rocking with Kyle Kuzma?
No, I'm not. Montrezl Harrell is your 2nd scoring option.
And they're looking to trade him, too.
Yeah. It's going to be the 76ers. Joel Embiid is going to drop 50 on their heads.
Yeah, he won't drop 50, but I got the Sixers winning, too. I think the Lakers are in a bit of a problem right now, and I think the Sixers are going to win this one easily.
All right, how about the Hawks versus the Warriors? Anthony.
It's going to be... I think it'll be a very low-scoring game.
What?
Curry's going to be out. I don't think that... You have a problem?
Yes. Keep going, though.
I think the Hawks are going to win. I think without having Curry, I don't think the Warriors are their best team. They're the best. They struggle without him, so give me the Hawks.
I think one of the stupidest things you've ever said is that this is going to be a low-scoring game. The entire Hawks roster is full of scorers except for Clint Capella, who's a monster on the defensive end of the ball. Monster. Yes, you lose Steph Curry, but you have other players who can score the ball. And in the NBA, if you're in the NBA, you have a jump shot that likely goes in, or you have a way to score, unless your name is Draymond Green.
Then you're the best defensive player in the history of the league.
No, that's definitely not him. It's Dennis Rodman.
I was joking.
Well,
But
obviously, I would hope you were joking. But it's going to be the Hawks because their scoring is going to be able to blow out the Warriors. It's not going to be a low-scoring game. It's going to be the Hawks, though. We agree on something.
I'll say the Hawks too, because as we previously stated, Draymond Green is not the best defensive player in the history of the league, so I think the Hawks scoring offense is definitely going to be able to take it to him. How about the 76ers and the Clippers? Anthony.
I think the Sixers are going to win this one. I don't think the Clippers can challenge them. The Sixers are they're on an 8-game win streak, if I'm not mistaken. I think they're just going to keep it rolling with this one.
I think that this is going to be a very, 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 very amazing game. You have some of the best defenders in the league with Kawhi Leonard, Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid, Paul George. Some of the best defenders in the league. And if I'm not mistaken, I do believe that Joel Embiid is out. So my 76ers Lakers pick still stands, but it's going to be Ben Simmons dropping 50 and not Joel Embiid.
Okay.
But I have the Clippers winning this game because I'm pretty sure that Joel Embiid is out.
I'm going to say the Sixers. How about we're going to go with the Clippers versus the Bucks. Will, I'll give you this one because I know you were looking at me like you wanted the last one so badly.
Yeah. The Clippers versus the Bucks. This game has potential. However, I think that the Clippers are going to win it. I think that they have more scoring. While the Bucks have defense, but they don't always make up for it with scoring. The Clippers have defense and scoring, so it's going to be the Clippers.
I think this is going to be a very high-scoring game, and I think the Bucks are going to pull it out. I think Giannis is going to have a very, very, very good game.
Yeah.
I'll take the Bucks in this one. And the final game, the Kings versus the Spurs. I'm going to touch on this one first. I've got the Spurs. I don't need any analytics in this one. I've got the Spurs. I'll go with Anthony next to make Will suffer because I know he wants to talk about this one too.
I think it'll be the Spurs as well. The Kings have not put up very good numbers recently. They haven't.
What are you talking about? We beat the Celtics.
Woohoo.
Okay.
I mean, the Kings are still just bad. I mean,
Yeah.
They were potentially challenging for a playoff spot until they ended up losing, 10 in a row, I think.
I think it was 11.
It wasn't worse than the Rockets, though.
No one can be worse than the Rockets.
No, I just don't think that the Kings can beat the Spurs. I thought the Spurs winning this one.
Yeah, I would love to say that it's going to be the Spurs, but I think that the Kings, honestly, De'Aaron Fox has been playing very well, and since Marvin Bagley went out, the lineup is definitely better. I do not like Marvin Bagley, mostly because we took him one pick before Luka. So there was DeAndre Ayton picked at 1, Marvin Bagley picked at 2, Luka Doncic picked at 3. Insert person who I don't remember at 4, Trae Young at 5, and we got Marvin Bagley. So that's my rant on Marvin Bagley. I do think that De'Aaron Fox and DeJounte Murray is going to be a very nice matchup to watch at point guard, but I think that the most intriguing matchup is going to be the Derek White versus Tyrese Halliburton matchup.
The guy who's not going to win Rookie of the Year.
Yes.
The one who's not even going to be in the top 3.
Stop talking.
The one who's going to be behind the injured player, LaMelo Ball.
Stop talking.
Could you imagine how different the NBA would turn out if the Mavs and Hawks never made that trade?
It wouldn't be much different.
Imagine Trae Young on the Mavs and.
No, it really wouldn't be. Yeah, I know. It probably wouldn't be much different. I mean, they're about equal in
Because
value.
the Mavs, the only reason Luka excels is because Rick Carlisle is a good coach. The Hawks had a very, very bad coach.
Sure.
So Trae Young excelled
is so
emptily for
true.
2 years. And Luka excelled on a good team for 2 years.
You're not wrong.
So the NBA would be different in the fact that those two are on different teams, but overall I think that the Mavs would still be subpar and the Hawks would be below subpar. So
And the Kings would be the same because they still got Marvin Bagley.
yeah, and Luke Walton's still our head coach. He missed the playoffs with LeBron James.
All right.
This has been Beyond the Sidelines. I'm Dylan Rydberg. Thank you so much for watching.